All right. Well, all right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Coach David. I am part of the duo that is going to be helping your students understand exactly what Ivy League and Ivy Plus colleges are looking for. And hopefully, as we go through this, you will start to get a sense of just how amazing the students that are going to these schools are. Okay. Now, in this session, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be breaking down what colleges look for, right? Those top 20, 30 colleges, right? We're also going to talk about what our students did that got them to their dream colleges, right? And finally, we're going to tell you, a little bit about how you can work with us and with your students so that we can make sure that we are getting them to the colleges of their dreams. Okay. Now, I'm Coach David, right? Here's a picture of me. That's when we were working, me and Coach Tony were working together at our college application intensive, making sure that our students are well prepared for the college application season, right? And here's Coach Tony. I'm going to let him do a little short intro about himself here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. It's Coach David again. Coach David, I will say he's the true brains of this operation as well, too. I'm super honored to kind of hang out with him and co-host a training. It's kind of rare when we get to hang out together live in front of everyone. We have like close to 100 people joining us live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here. So again, I am one of your college admissions advisors, helping you guys with this college admissions journey, kind of my start in this journey. I actually helped become I was a reader with UC Berkeley. So that's kind of how I got my entrance into this college admissions game, was a reader over at Berkeley. And then that kind of taught me a bunch of things of what kids get in, what kids don't get in. And doing that, you start working with a lot of other families. And I've been helping tons of students in not just the UCs, but you find out, hey, Stanford looks at the same thing. Hey, look, USC looks at the same thing. Ivies look at the same thing. So I've been doing this, helping families out. A few years ago, I actually got to meet Coach David. Our paths crossed, and I was like, hey, man, you're really good at the Ivy school, the top 20, top 50. Not, again, no ego issue. He's way better than I am at the Ivy admissions. I'm comparable, right, with the UC admissions. Him, he is again, like I mentioned, you'll see in today's training why he's so good at the Ivy League admission route. But we tag team a few years back, like, hey, let's work together to help more families out. And that's kind of how it was. So me and Coach David, he brings 15, I think, going on 16 years of experience. I bring on 15, going in 16 years. It's combined. We have over 30 years of helping families get into pretty much all the top schools that you can think of as well. And one of the things that you probably hear Coach David mention later today is that he also helped our families with the financial aid process as well. This last year, specifically, class of 2024, right? People think, hey, I make too much money, I don't qualify for aid. Especially if you're on this training, you're either one of our families, maybe like Northeast, right, in the Boston, Massachusetts area, or you're probably in California. That's kind of where a lot of the Ivy top 20, top 50 families are kind of stemming from, and everyone's kind of scattered in between. But that's when you in those two areas, like, you know what, I make too much money, I don't qualify for aid. Fun little fact for you guys. Again, Coach David might talk about us later today into the training. But this last year, a lot of families that worked with us, they made between $100,000 and $300,000 as their income, and he was able to help them get between $60,000 and $150,000 in free money, not loans, but free money as well too. So, testament to how amazing, not just getting students into these schools, but also helping them pay for these colleges also. Right. So for today, right, I want to kind of highlight just some of our combined wins, right? Coach David, not just Coach David myself, but we have an incredible team as well, too. So you can kind of start seeing here, right? LMU, UVA, one of our students gone to Emory early decision as well, too. Another one of our students gone to engineering at UC Berkeley. You see Berkeley again here. UC Irvine, there's a USC one, BSMD programs. For those who know, it's an accelerated medical program. Berkeley and LA, right? That's a good problem to have if you're stuck between LA and Berkeley. Can't really compare there. One of our students in the middle here gone to Caltech, literally the only school more competitive than the Ivies as well too. The Caltech, one of our students gone to Rice early decision. One of our students going out of the country to Canada. One of our students over here got a $200,000 in financial aid. How incredible there, right? Another student, UC Irvine, another Berkeley, data science school, Purdue, Pepperdine, Texas Tech, Chapman, Pitt, more schools here, even more. SLU, Berkeley. One of the awesome words from our parents. We appreciate parents always say nice things. A student on the left, she got into all her UC schools. She's actually at Cornell right now. We didn't have that. So that's like the next screenshot. She actually went to Cornell. She's currently at Cornell right now as well too. Another student got USC, UMich, Baylor. So pretty much, right? We've been there, done that. Nothing we're gonna tell you is kind of made up. Has been years and years of a proven system, and you kind of see why. So over the 60-minute training, really quick, like, can we have your permission, right? Do you have permission to, one, teach you exactly what these top schools, these Ivies, these top 20, top 30 schools are looking for? And then we'd love to share with you this student's profile. Like you mentioned earlier, one of our students got into Stanford, Columbia, Penn, right? Coach David's going to break down exactly what was on this student's application. So you know, God, this is what it takes to get to these type of schools, and also see what we helped this student with to make them so successful in this admissions process. Then we're going to send an invitation for those who are interested. Again, no commitment if you guys don't want to, but those who do, right? Those who do are interested, we invite you to tag team with us, work along myself and Coach David on your high school journey to kind of almost guarantee success for you guys in the admissions process. And then at the end, we're going to try to go crank it through. People love Q&A the most, so I'm trying to crank it through and answer any questions that you guys have. We're going up on almost 200 people here live. Thank you for everyone for jumping in. So does that sound like a plan? If that sounds like, go ahead in the chat, drop a yes. If that sounds like a good plan for you, we're going to try to finish by, there's no try. We have to finish by 7 live. If we're watching this live as well, it's okay in the chat, drop a quick little yeses. I see a lot of yeses, and people are scared to post it in this chat. They put host mode. That's cool. We still see it. So long as you post host mode, we see as well too. There you go. Bunch of yeses, and those everyone's yeses as well too. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. With that being said, again, the true brains of the operation, Coach David. I'm going to throw it over back to Coach David. He's going to go ahead and teach you guys about the Ivy admissions process.
All right, thanks, Coach Tony. So today, like Coach Tony said, we're going to be looking at kind of like what are some things that colleges look for, right? Now, I wish I had, several hours to go into a deep dive, but unfortunately, we don't have that time. So what I am going to do is I'm going to kind of talk about some of the more important parts, okay? So let's kind of move forward here. All right. We already did the yeses, so we're going to skip the yeses here, but this is what they are looking at, okay? Right? They are looking at academic rigor. They're looking at activities. They are looking at community involvement. They are looking at SAT or ACT scores, if applicable. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of the changing trends in SAT and ACT there. They're also looking at your application essays, your recommendations, and your demographics. Okay, so these are the parts that we're going to talk about with this current student, right? And we will make sure that, if there are questions, you can put them in the Q&A, you can put them in the chat. If they are in line, I will answer them, or if not, we can answer them during the Q&A session at the end, okay? But I want to introduce our student now, okay? Obviously, we're not going to be using any real names, right? And I'm going to be trying to make things a little bit more general, but the classes he took, the scores he got, the clubs he was a part of, all these different things are exactly what this student did. So let us begin with a little bit of background, okay? So here is the background on this student. So it was a male student. We're going to call him John, okay? Just because it's an easy name for me to say, okay? So this student was interested in studying STEM subjects, right? More specifically, he was interested in CS and engineering, okay? He was from the Bay Area. He was going to a regionally and nationally high-achieving high school, right? Now, a lot of our students that come into our programs are going to those types of schools, right? It might be a special magnet school or a special charter school or a special just, high school in general, where students are pushing the limits of what high school students can do, right? But this student was from one of those high schools, okay? Now, academic profile, here were the numbers, right? Now, we always tell families, we don't care about the GPA, but because everyone's going to ask me anyway, I decided to put this on there. His GPA, his cumulative GPA was 4.91. Now, a lot of people are probably asking right now, oh my God, how does that even happen? I will show you in a little bit exactly the courses that he took over the course of his 4-year high school career that led him to this GPA. Now, you have to remember, this actually does not include his outside coursework, okay? So he took outside coursework as well. On his standardized tests, he took the SAT, he took He took it one time, he got a 1580, right? He got 800 in math, and he had a 780 in the reading and English section, right? His class rank, his school did deciles, right? So all he had was a top 10% ranking. Okay, that's all he had, but obviously he was a very, very high achieving student. Okay, so here was his coursework. Okay, in ninth grade, he took Algebra 2 Trig honors, English 9 honors, Biology honors, PE, Health, World Geography, and Spanish 1 honors. Okay, he took, and then in 10th grade, again, along that track, he took honors pre-calculus, English 10 honors, Chemistry honors, AP World History, Spanish 2 honors, and AP CSP. Okay, in 11th grade, every class he took was at the AP level. He took AP language, right? He took AP US history, AP physics. Oh, AP US history is in there twice. I don't know why it happened that like that. And he took Spanish 3 honors, AP CSA. In 12th grade, he took AP Lit, AP Government and Econ, AP Physics 2, AP Physics C, AP Spanish, and then data structures. Data structures at his school is like the next level above AP CSA. It's not considered that class, right? So over the course, there's a different AP course that was in there for 11th grade. I don't know why it didn't get put in, but at the end of it, right? Those were the classes that he took. Okay. Now, I want to put a caveat in here. Not every high school student will be allowed to take this course schedule, right? And your high school might have limits on what you can do. Okay. But one of the things that you need to understand is that colleges will understand that. Okay. They're not going to expect you to take 20 APs if there's a limit at your school of only taking 3 or 4 per year, right? But what I did want to show you through showing you this coursework is that students should be pushing as much as they can. Now, this particular student also took additional coursework at like UC Scout for AP Chemistry because he didn't have time in his schedule in order to get that fit in, right? Now, for math, I'm actually going to go back real quick, right? One of the things that you'll realize that in 11th grade and in 12th grade is that he does not have math, okay? And here's the reason why he did not have math, okay? And it's because he was taking it at the community college instead because he wanted to get further, and we actually suggested that he get further in math. So instead of going down the regular AP, Calc AB, BC kind of pathway, which would have taken him to senior year, he instead decided to go to community college and take it there instead. Again, I do understand there are restrictions for certain students at certain high schools, okay? Now, he took Calc 1 and Calc 2, which are the equivalents of Calc AB and Calc BC. Then he moved on to Calc 3, which is multivariable calculus. Then he moved on to differential equations, linear algebra, and then discrete math. He completed every single math course that was available to him at the community college, right? And in addition to his APCSP, APCSA, and data structures that he was taking, he also took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional computer science courses at the community college to show that he was going above and beyond his high school coursework. Okay. Now, let's review his academics, right? So in total, starting in 9th grade, this student had 23 honors or AP courses. Outside of school, they had 11 community college courses, right? His SAT was a 1580, okay? All exemplary kind of standards to kind of be at, right? Now, if we look at the trends, though, this is what the trends that the colleges would see. He constantly challenged himself to reach for more, right? He was looking outside the high school curriculum to go above and beyond. And across 9th grade to 12th grade, it was just complete academic excellence. This student didn't have a B, right? Now, having said that, again, I always put these caveats in because I always get these angry messages. Well, my kid is not there, or they've already gotten a B, right? Having a B doesn't mean you can't get to an Ivy League school, right? But you do need to show them a positive grade trend across all 4 years. Okay, so if you had a B, freshman year, then maybe you have just 1 B plus sophomore year, and then you have an A junior year. They want to see that you're constantly improving. Okay, so that is the one piece that you need to make sure that you're looking for, right? Positive grade trends, right? And academic excellence. Now, let's talk a little bit about the activities of this student, right? So he was involved in robotics at school. He was also doing, USACO kind of competitions, right? That is the USA, basically, computer science Olympiad, right? He was also kind of there and doing multiple hackathons. He won a bunch of awards. I just didn't have enough time to put everything here. He was also the president of the CS club at his school. and he presented some of his research at the Special Interest Group on Computer Science Education. Okay. Now, we were able to kind of connect him with that group. And so we were like, hey, I think that your research should be presented here. And he was able to present it there. He also did AMC math, right? All the different levels. And he also did Math Olympiad as well. Okay. Now, in addition to that, he also did an internship. Okay. And when talking about internships, one of the things that I always tell my families, and I kind of coined this term. So maybe later in, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they will call it, they will, give me credit for naming it this, but I call internships, the majority of internships, I call them mug and hoodie internships. And it's because a lot of our students end up going to these internships where, it's a great place. It's at Meta, right? It's at Adobe, it's at Facebook, right? It's at this, it's at that, right? But all they end up getting out of it is a mug and a hoodie and lunch for 1 week, right? If that is an internship that your student is actually thinking about doing and there's no actual skill set involvement, it's probably not an internship that you should consider, right? Now, our student, right, John, right, he started working at a kind of a startup that was working with AI interfaces. Another one that he did was that he worked with a startup that was working on, different ways that computer science and kind of programming software can help with workplace solutions. Now, this student was at a very advanced level of computer science. So when he was actually dropped into the project, it wasn't, oh, just sit back and watch. It was, here, we need this done, get working. Okay. So internships should be at places where you can get your hands dirty. Okay. Now, back to the mug and hoodie internship. Well, Facebook's not going to let you touch anything, right? Google's not going to let you touch anything, right? Genentech is not going to let you touch anything because they're afraid that you touch it and you break it. Okay, so it is something to keep in mind there. Now, in addition, right, he had more things, right? He was an open source contributor on GitHub, right? He also did multiple research projects. One of them was a research that was kind of geared towards the Regeneron Science Talent Search, right? And so for that one, it is something that, you put out there or that you apply for. And then if you are selected, then it's this whole process of being interviewed, talking about your research and kind of making sure that other people are aware of these new areas, right? He also did another research project that he did with a PhD mentor on human-computer interaction, and this was actually published, okay? Now, he was published in multiple places. He was published in the high school journal of, research, and then he was also featured in a very small kind of periodical, but more on a professional level, right? And we were able to help him find that mentor as well, okay? He also did personal projects with on kind of like an app with and did app development and on kind of websites. And then he also had kind of like what we call our personal project, right? The other stuff with the app development and the websites, that was kind of like things that he did on the side. But this personal project, that's where I feel like our students shined, okay? And we helped him kind of create this, okay? So let us talk about his personal project in specific, okay? So this student was focused on a community that he was a part of, okay? So John was actually born with diabetes, okay? So he had a genetic form of diabetes, right? And here were kind of like the things that we asked to try to figure out exactly what we should do with it, right? And that, because that's what he told us that he was passionate about. But the first question that we always start with, and so if you are a parent or if you are a student that is looking to kind of do something that is a little bit more unique than kind of volunteering at an organization, this is what you should be focused on, right? The first question is, what do you love or are you passionate about? Okay, so that's the first question. But the follow-up question is always why. Okay, the next question is, what about this do you want to share with others? And again, why, right? Third, what community do you want to impact and why, right? And the fourth part, what will you do to impact that community? And again, why, right? If you're part of our program, this why question, you've probably heard it so much that you're sick of it, right? But the kind of like overarching kind of question that we always ask our students is why, okay? And the reason is because we want to know your motivations, and colleges also want to know exactly what your kind of passions are, what your motivations are for doing any of the activities that you're doing, okay? So if we look, right, these are the reasons why this student wanted to do this project, right? So this student, they had kind of figured out how to control their own diabetes, but he saw that there was a lot of people out there that didn't know how to do it, right? And he wanted to help, right? He decided that he wanted to share what worked for him and other general information so that people could live healthier lives, right? And the group that he was working with that he saw the most problems with were like those lower socioeconomic demographics. He realized that there was always a lot of misdiagnosis or non-diagnosis of diabetes, which led to future health problems, right? So what did he do, right? He began to develop an app that could track blood sugar levels and also provide tips to patients on how to live a healthier life. Okay. Now, even up to this point, this would be a great personal project, but did the student stop here? No. And the reason why he didn't stop here is because we pushed him to the next level. And here is what that next level looked like, right? He began to go out with a very simple QR code to local health fairs, farmers markets, anywhere he could go to spread the word. Eventually, enough people took notice, and like the health fairs, or like the farmers markets, like they were basically told him like, oh, next time, do you want to have like a little booth? Because you're like standing out in the middle of the sun, and maybe it would be easier for you to sit down and hand out stuff to people that are walking by, right? So he started to do that, over and over and over. He also went to a city council to be like, hey, I have this great idea. I know that there's a lot of people in our community that are affected by this. I don't really know how to get it out there to a further audience. So can I contact the health clinics that are in our community so that people that are going there for other healthcare needs can have this information? The city council said, sure, that sounds like a great idea, right? He also decided to bring in medical personnel to various presentations to talk about the risks in a more kind of formal manner, right? And also inform people like, hey, here are the screening processes. Here are the ways that you're able to kind of figure out if you have diabetes or not. Here are the places where you can get resources and help to manage your diabetes. Okay, so this whole process, right? It wasn't something that happened overnight. We talked with this student for months and months and months to try to figure out exactly what happened. The creating the app, that was probably the quickest part of the process, but everything else were the parts that took a long time. Okay, now at the end of the app, right, or at the end of the project, right, he had over 3,000 downloads, right, and he had presented at over 50 different venues, right. He had more volunteers, right? It was him and a partner when they first started out, but by the end of it, they had 10 people, okay, since he's graduated. And those 10 people, or I guess the 8 people that are still left there, they're still running it to this day, okay? He also increased the prevalence of his app by making sure to reach out to other people that could get the word out, right? The city council, those health clinics, right? At the end of the day, this student created an impact in his community, okay? Now, the impact, it might not be able to be like, oh, I handed out one meal and that's the impact I made. It's not as tangible as that. But if you think about the 3,000 people that downloaded his app and possibly because of that realized I might have diabetes, I need to go get checked, right? That's 3,000 people's lives that might have been saved due to what our student had done. Okay, that is what a personal project looks like. Okay, it is not just starting something. The example I use with my students all the time is, well, I can tell you I'm going to start a club that is going to end world hunger tomorrow, right? Now, it's really easy to say things, right? But without that growth, without that development, without that kind of, those sweat and tears that go into a project, it doesn't grow, okay? But this is an example of a project that did grow, okay? All right, so I kind of was really emphatic there. But let's talk about the application a little bit, because again, these are other parts that were very critical in our student getting to where they wanted to go, right? So a big question that I usually get when I'm talking about Ivy League schools is how did they apply, right? So for UPenn, we applied early decision. For Columbia, we applied regular decision. And for Stanford, we applied regular decision. Okay, so those were the three schools, right? There were other schools as well, but since we're just talking about these three today, that's what we're going to focus on, right? The other question is, what did we apply as? Because a lot of parents are, I feel like a lot of families are a little bit cynical and they're like, oh, you know what? He probably applied as like Greek studies, right? But unfortunately, no, these are the programs that we applied to, right? So at UPenn, we applied to the Jerome Fisher Program in Management and Technology. It's a combined program between Wharton and the College of Engineering. At Columbia, we applied computer science at the Fu School of Engineering. And at Stanford, we applied to computer science at the Stanford College of Engineering. Okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about essays. And of course, I wanted to talk a little bit more about like exactly which essays and like what was the focus and all these different things. But because of time, I wanted to instead show you guys how much time he spent on his essays. Okay. So his Common App main essay was 12 drafts. Okay. That is 12 separate drafts of kind of like going over things, making sure that everything is exactly the way that we want it. Now, if you actually think about that, that's 12 drafts the student wrote. But if you multiply that by 2, because that's what happens. They write a draft, they send it to us, we give them feedback, and we send it back. So it's actually about 24 drafts, right? That is how long it took for us to get to a Common App main essay that everyone was happy with, okay? For his supplemental essays, right? Stanford has, I think they have like eight essays and like another like 5, 6, 7 short answers, right? Penn has 2 supplementals and then another couple short answers, right? But there's a bunch, right? For his supplemental essays, there was an average of 8 drafts per essay. Okay, so if there was 5, that means that there was basically 40 different drafts that went back and forth, right? The time commitment that the student made during the summer was 30 hours a week. Okay, now that 30 hours a week wasn't always spent like, actually at the computer typing. Sometimes it was sitting there and brainstorming, asking us for advice in our Discord channels, right? But that's roughly around the time that he spent. Okay, so that's essays. Now, another important part of the kind of application process is the letters of recommendation. A lot of people think like, oh, well, these are just standard things, so nothing to really worry about, right? Now, in a perfect world, this is what I tell students to do. This is what this student did. I asked him to get 1 STEM teacher and then 1 humanities or social science teacher. And then he also got an additional letter of recommendation from his research mentor that he created that published paper with, right? Now, if you look at the teachers that he chose, right? He chose teachers and mentors that he had known for a long time. His research mentor, he was with him for a year and a half. His STEM teacher, it was the teacher that he had for pre-calculus and for algebra 2 trig, right? So the multiple years, right? And then his social science teacher was the one that taught him US history and was also going to be his teacher for AP government. Okay. So they were teachers that knew him for an extended period of time, right? And that knew him well, right? A lot of students end up choosing teachers that are like really popular or that they've heard write good essays. But I always tell students and families, it's not about that. It is about who likes you the best. Okay. So focus on who likes you the best, and you should be able to find the right teachers. Okay. Now, the one note that I'll make here is that this student, again, because of those relationships, because of the information he provided as they were writing letters of recommendation, there was no way that this student was going to get a slop letter. Okay. Now, this word slop, I didn't create it. I will admit I took it from someone else, I think, right? But a slop letter is a standard letter of praise. Parents, you guys are probably very, very familiar with this because if you hired people or fired people or like, wrote letters of recommendation, you wrote, oh, they're such a good worker, they're a team player, and, they always get their work done on time. That is a standard letter of praise. I don't want that. I want them to talk about a certain time where you realize that they were so inquisitive, right? I want them to talk about a time that you came to ask a question because you didn't understand and your way of thinking about the question was so complex so that you guys had to, rethink about, kind of how to do the problem, right? I want specific instances. And that's why most teachers' letters end up being this slop, this standard letter of praise, because at the end of the day, if you're going to a school that has, 5, 6, 7, 800 seniors, right? A lot of the teachers forget who you are. Right? So you need to remember to give them enough information so that they can write the proper letter for you. Okay. Now, another big question is probably, where is he going? Right? A lot of parents, especially California students, right? It's like Stanford, that's like the dream, right? But this student actually is headed off to UPenn. Okay. And let me tell you why. Because again, why is the most important part of our program, most important part of life, most important part for this particular student. Okay, so the student got into this management and tech program. It's one of very few dual programs in the United States, right? And this student had kind of those ideas that, yeah, you know what, I want to use computer science, but I want to create it into a business later, right? And so, you know, his research mentor was actually also from UPenn, right? Had gone through this program, right? And was now kind of doing a PhD level kind of coursework, right? And so there was a little bit of inside knowledge about the program as well, right? But one of the biggest factors that kind of played into it was the financial factor. And let me tell you a little bit about that. Okay. So this student was part of our financial aid edge program, right? It's a program designed to maximize your financial aid. This student received $56,000 per year and is going to be attending UPenn for under $30,000 a year. Okay. The total savings are just over $225,000 over the course of 4 years. Stanford and Columbia, yeah, great schools, but only getting about $10,000-$15,000 a year, which means that the kind of price tag for the family was going to be roughly about $70,000 to $80,000 a year. Okay, so obviously he got into the perfect program for him, right? But he also saved a bunch of money, which is just another cherry on top, right? So when we're applying to colleges, right, whether it's Ivy League schools, right, or Ivy Plus schools, you know, top 40 schools, right, you need to be looking at what fits the student and what makes the perfect fit for any particular student. Okay. So I am going to hand it back to Coach Tony to walk you through kind of how you can work with us to make sure that your student is able to get to the colleges of their dreams.
Awesome. Real quick. Awesome. We had a lot of really amazing questions come in. Thank you for everyone who asked questions. I told you guys we're going to hang out for a little bit. We're going to answer in a few minutes. But before we go to Q&A, can I get 5 minutes really quick just to talk about our programs? If that's okay with you guys. I know we have some new faces here in the chat. Like, who is this guy? So people are like, oh my God, this is amazing stuff. Thank you everyone who could chat with me back and forth in the chat just now as well too. So if you guys are interested in working with us, again, working with Coach David, replicating a similar success as our student, we do have an opportunity and little teasers for you guys. There's 4 special bonuses for this week. So if you guys do want to get started this week, we do throw in 4 bonuses you guys are going to like. Bonus number 1 and 4 is what I'm going to say. Bonus number 1 or 4. So really quick, I'm going to take less than 10 minutes. I'll probably faster. We have a lot of questions. I want to get to Q&A. I think you guys are just waiting for that right now. So I'm going to speed through this fast as I can, just to give you guys, those who are interested in what can we do, how did we help this student, all of our other students as well too, just so you guys have an idea as well. So I'm going to show you guys how we pretty much guarantee a success for our students. So if you are class of 2026, 27, 28 or beyond, listen up. This invitation is for you. So the invitation to join our coaching program, there's kind of 5 components that we do with our families, help you guys with your college career, academics, activities, application, and truly unlimited support. What does that mean though? When it comes to colleges, again, just like you mentioned, again, you can see everything I'm saying, what Coach David mentioned with the student. We help the student figure out their college list, help them explore majors, to get in career explorations. If they are considering community college gap years, we help them with that as well too. When it comes to academics, right, the student, we put them on the different dual enrollment track, the outside courses for them and their class strategy. It's not a coincidence the student had the schedule. Keep in mind, most of your high school counselors will not agree with a lot of stuff our team will say, just because, again, your high school counselor's goal is to help you graduate from high school. Our goal is to help you get into the top schools you can. Keep in mind, your high school counselor is not like they're not paid by the school they send you to, right? So it's that. Help you go to strategies, test prep support as well too. When it comes to activity, you saw the student, right? Earlier, John, right? Our John did really amazing stuff. Personal projects, his personal project as well too. Have a little teaser for you guys in a little bit as well. And right, we help them with our students, we help them with the internship research and program applications as well too. So if you guys are looking to land that internship or research, we can help you guys with that as well too. When you guys are seniors, we help you with all your apps, no limit on them. Unlike other programs, we don't charge you per school. Apply as many as you want. One of our seniors this past year, he applied to 43 colleges. Probably don't recommend applying to 43 colleges, but if you want to, that is our record to beat right now. We include our 2-day application workshop. This is a really cool thing. This upcoming summer, Coach David, myself, and the rest of our team, we're literally flying. We're literally going on tour I think actually in like actually next week, I'm heading up to the Bay Area. No, this weekend, I'm heading up to the Bay Area to hang out with some of our families. But in July, we'll be touring, I think, San Jose, Berkeley, and Davis, working with a lot of families over there. Then we're going to go to tons of other cities to help them out with their college apps itself. With our students, we help them brainstorm their essays. We help them write it. Like Coach David mentioned, the student had a lot of essay edits, right? We went back and forth with them nonstop, no limits. If the student needed more than that 12, we would have kept going on more until it is done. How we know it's done, we did a send-off call with every student where we kind of share their screen. We make sure everything is good to go. And all their supplements, again, the student applied to a lot of schools, had a lot of supplements. We help them with those. We help them with interviews, and we keep them on track with our deadlines to make sure they are good to go there. And throughout the entire journey, right, we help you with what we call unlimited support. Meaning if you are a junior, a sophomore, a freshman, wherever you want to start with us, we do lifetime pricing. Whenever you want to start, we take care of you guys all the way until the end for the same price. It's not different per year. So for us, the sooner it is, because again, you saw the student, we start with them really early because again, the sooner you can start, the better you can craft it in. What usually happens, a lot of people join us really late, and I'm like, no matter kind of what we do, or if we do implement what we want, the student's going to burn out, right? And we don't want them to burn out there. But the sooner you start, just the better, the easier planning comes to be. What we do is we do a roadmap call with the student, kind of plan out everything with them these next 4 years. Every single month, we do a check-in with them to make sure they're where they're at. We do weekly updates to make sure, again, they're teenagers, right? Make sure they're doing what they need to be working on as well, too. We do daily coaching. Anytime you need help, like I just had my office hours right above before this call. Parents, we have parents and students jump on. We were talking, we were helping edit some essays as well too before this. And we also have chat support to message us anytime you guys need as well too. Anytime you do ask a question, give us 24 hours. But we also built, and you guys have seen the Apple keynote this week. AI is a big thing, right? I think every big tech company has pushed it really hard. We are there as well too. We built our AI technology before Apple did as well. So we have our AI support bot to help students with questions that are built in our curriculum. And we help you out with scholarships as well as searching and applying there. Right, so everything you get with our program, college, career, major, community college, class strategy, dual enrollment, outside strategies, test prep, activities, personal project, internship, research programs, app support, app intensive essays, app send-off call, supplemental apps, interviews, early internal deadlines, high school lifetime access, roadmap, monthly check-in calls, weekly update forms, daily coaching, 24-hour response, AI support bot, and scholarships. So how much, right? The questions every single time. How much is this as well too? So we hear that other companies charge by year, right? We think that's silly as well too. Again, if we charge by year, knowing my parents, right, they'd wait till the end. They'd wait till senior year itself. But what happens, right? What if you weren't on track these first 3 years? And no matter how awesome we are, we still can't get you to where you want to go, right? So that's why this model is really silly. Some people charge per hour, or they give you like, hey, you have 20 hours to use. We also think that's kind of silly as well too. What if your family needs more time, right? It's perfect for those who know I only need this much, that's it. But realistically, when was the last time you said, I only need this, but you're like, but I need squeeze a little more time, just a little bit more every single time, right? So for us, we don't do the year-to-year pricing. We don't do the hour-by-hour pricing. What we do is how we ensure success for all of our students. We give you truly unlimited and comprehensive support. So if you're with us, we're with you every single step of the way, starting at 4K, right? Again, there's a few tiers above that if you're interested in that, but 4K will take care of you guys. If you're a junior right now listening to this, 4K will take care of you guys from now until the end. Actually, the math is, if you start as a junior, the math breaks down to only $5 a day. That's like a Starbucks right there, right? If you have a sophomore, it's the same $4,000. It's not charged per year. Breaks down to $3.65 per day. If you have a freshman, $273 per day. That's the math. If those like to break it down in numbers as well. And by the way, if there are middle school families, I asked earlier, you can enroll as early as 6th grade. Same thing, starts at 4K all the way to the end as well. And if you have siblings, we do have a sibling discount for families with 2 or more kids there. But like I mentioned, we do have bonuses. So if you guys do get started this upcoming week, right? Bonus number 1, we give you Coach David directly for your roadmap. The reason why our students are so successful, they work directly with the person who's done it so many times. Like I mentioned, right? He's been there, done that so often that I don't question David ever, right? It's like, Coach David, what should we do here? Done. That's the advice because I know he's been able to replicate success time after time after time again. Right? So you have your roadmap directly created from Coach David. Bonus number 2, I kind of mentioned it earlier. You guys heard about the personal project, right? That the student did. Really cool. Again, the question is, how many students do you see do that same thing? So we pushed personal projects so hard, but the thing that we found that students struggled the most with was starting. What ideas should they do, right? What could they do? And they always get stuck there. But once they have the idea, they're great. They always snowball and it does really well. So for us, it's like, how do we help our students start that first 30-day journey? That is what we call the personal project incubator. Forgot to change name. This is with Coach Tony, not with Coach David, right? This will be personal project incubator with Coach Tony directly. So I'll be working with the students to help them figure out what ideas they should be working on and get them past that first 30 days and then rolling it on. And we have some specialized coaches who do to work with our students on their personal projects to help them keep growing these over the next few years there. Bonus number 3. Test prep. You guys have seen the Ivies went back to test required. A lot of these top schools went back to test required. So we don't, again, it's like, who's the best at what? We're quite good at admissions, but when it comes to test prep, Magoosh is got people that I call partners in this industry together with. I'm also very biased. I used to work here. Well, I used to be a tutor. I became their head of high school. Love Magoosh. Check them out, magoosh.com. You guys can see all their success stories. Because I work with them, I know their whole program in and out. I've been sending families there for literally a decade now, and all our families have nothing but nice things and amazing things. And again, the scores are the testament that they have as well too. We'll include this. We'll buy you guys access to their test prep course. So you guys can go ahead and prepare for that when you guys get started. And bonus number 4 is something brand new. We haven't done this yet. Actually, it's the first time I think actually some of our old families may have seen this because this was a project that we had planned for 2 years. It's been the back burner. It's official. I got the green light this past Monday. So anyone who does get started, we have a book. We have a book that is coming out called UC Admissions Secrets Revealed. Like I mentioned, I served as the former admissions reader at UC Berkeley. So I saw behind the scenes. I saw literally what everyone sees, what makes a yes student, what makes a no student at the UC level. And it's literally the Berkeley trained all the other UCs. So that's kind of how it works. I basically shared all the learnings I had inside this book as well too. It is done. I got approval. It is set to be released in July. So anyone who gets started, you guys will get early access to this before anyone else gets their hands on this as well too. Okay, so again, you get everything I mentioned. You get the bonuses, the roadmap with Coach David, the personal project with Coach Tony, Magoosh test prep, 1-year access. You get the access to the UC Admissions Secrets Revealed in July, and the program starts at $4,000. This is your official invitation if you guys want to take the next step with us, right? So if you guys are interested, we encourage you guys to book a one-on-one call. You cannot buy, by the way, on this call. Our team doesn't know what to do if you give them a credit card on this call. Basically, on this call, you'll connect with one of our advisors, Coach Jay, Coach Steffi, or Coach Tu. They've all been with me for a very long time. This call will have 2 goals. Number 1, they're going to ask you a few questions to learn more about you, and they're going to give you recommendations. So just in case this is our last call together, it's cool, right? And we just want to help you guys as well too. So if you can kind of point you guys towards the right direction, that's a win for us as well. So again, we'll just help you guys there, right? However, at the end, if you guys like us, right, and you do want to say, hey, let's work together, right, then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and schedule a second call, because on this call, you cannot buy. They're not going to sell you anything on this call either, right? But at the end, they're going to see if it's not a good fit, we'll leave us friends. But if it is a good fit, we'll set up a second call. We'll talk about the programs. We'll show you in detail. Again, teasers, again, spoilers. You can't buy on that call either as well, too. You can't buy on the second call. We're going to send you the documentation of it. You guys can take it. And whatever you want. Again, we do lifetime pricing. You can just learn about it and come back a year from now or whatever. But biggest thing is just kind of know if it's a good fit for your family there. If you guys are interested, I dropped the Zoom link in the chat. Thank you, Coach David, dropping as well, too. You guys can tap it, book your call, or if you're on your phone, just text the word call to 415-938-8721. Our team can go ahead and help you schedule that 15-minute session as well too. All right. Without further ado, let me go ahead, and I know you guys are here for the Q&A. So I'm going to invite Coach David back on. Coach David has a few questions. I'll be the question master, and you can definitely chime in and answer as well too. If anyone has questions, go ahead and drop it in the chat at this time too. So one of the questions that came in earlier was, is it possible for someone who has a low GPA but perfect score for SAT to get into the Ivy League?
So that's a very unique question, and here's how I will answer it. One of the first things that colleges do look at is your academic rigor, right? Now, your SAT or your ACT or SAT is a measure of how well you are kind of like a one-time test taker, right? So while they will see that you are, very adept at test taking, right? They won't be able to see the academic rigor if you aren't able to show that kind of in kind of like 9th, 10th, 11th grade, right? So while I'm sure there are stories of it happening, right? And again, low GPA or like low academic rigor, it's subjective, and we don't know exactly what they are kind of talking about, right? So if you're saying like, oh, I have a 3.8 and a perfect SAT score, or if you're saying you have a 2.2 and a perfect SAT score, it will change things a little bit. But if you've been doing well, but it's like you're not at like a 22, 23, honors and APs, but you've taken like 12 or, you've taken 10, right? The chances of you getting in, again, they increase with all the different things you do, but just the perfect SAT score is never going to get you in.
I have a related question. I think I'll probably group these questions to make it kind of a flow to it. So we had a few questions, but I want to summarize it. Some people ask like, what GPA do you need for schools like the Ivies and that? The other set of questions are like, what test score? So I'm kind of grouping that together. So what GPAs, what test scores is the Ivies looking for?
So if you look at the average GPAs of the applicants to the Ivy Leagues, obviously there's a huge range because there are students that are applying from all different walks of life, right? Generally speaking, if you look at the accepted students, right, in the class, in like for us, right, it's the class of 2027, class of 2028 that are just recent. You'll see that their GPAs, everyone, like the average GPA is above a 4.0, right? Beyond that, a lot of the Ivy League schools, they don't really give out statistics, right? But we know that it's above a 4.0 weighted, right? As far as SATs, again, the majority of colleges, right, were test optional until about a year ago, right? And then they're slowly changing kind of their mind as to what is going on with the SATs, things like that. But the average SAT at like an Ivy League school is 1530 plus.
Awesome, perfect. The other question here is, how do you get to do a research paper if you cannot find anyone to work with?
Got it. So there are a lot of, places that kind of put out different things in the world. For us, it's like, if you want to do research, we're going to help you find the resources in order to do it. Now, the most generally kind of like kind of put out their idea is that, well, you can kind of cold email professors, right? And see who would be willing to work with you. The problem with that is that professors are busy. They're doing their own research. They don't really have time to work with a high school student and kind of groom them and make sure that they are on the right track and doing the right things, right? But there are a lot of programs out there, and at College Admission Secrets, we have a research program, right? We connect you with the right mentor, with the right subject area, so that you guys can conduct your research. Now, of course, the cold email, that's a free option, right? But because it is so kind of, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, trying to find a professor that will help you out with your research. There are paid options, right? And if you like, a lot of times, a lot of people use kind of this term pay to play, right? But if you actually think about what you're paying for that person's time, right? And so we do have programs within our own kind of CAS, and there are also other programs out there that provide these opportunities for students.
Love it. I want to piggyback that a little bit. And I think there's another question about summer programs that someone mentioned, exactly pay to play programs as well too. And I think the thing to keep in mind is that I think our stance is that we take a step back, right? You take a step back and look at these programs, and some of them they do charge a lot of money, salty, right? So it's that. But the biggest question that we always tell our students to always ask before the thing is, would you still want to do this if you couldn't put it on your application, right? Because again, you don't know, again, just like everything, you don't know why. Again, this is the why again. Why are you doing that program? If the answer is, hey, I just want to look good for college, yeah, don't don't do that. That is gonna be a lot of money for not a lot of big benefits from you. But like for example, there's some programs that like you get to live in the Harvard dorms. Not many programs allow that ever, right? So again, so for a price, it's pricey, but it's getting you access to an opportunity that normally you wouldn't have been able to get. So our 2 cents there. We have a similar question. People ask like personal projects. Do you have any ideas for like? There's two groups here: computer science and like a lot of bio related ones. So if you have any like, what are your thoughts about personal projects for computer science kids? Any ideas? And bio.
Got it. Sure. So the one thing that I want to make very clear here is that your personal project is not related to your major necessarily, right? Now, for our particular case with John, he brought it back to kind of app development and kind of coding, right? But he could have done this without that piece as well, right? It needs to be something that you are really, really, really interested in, right? A lot of our students, like I have a student, right, that I kind of use as an example to be like, yeah, it doesn't need to be about computer science, doesn't need to be about engineering, math, coding, any of those things. I've had CS students that have done things on baking, right? I've had history majors teach math, right? It doesn't need to correlate in that way. It just needs to be something that you're very interested in, right? So, and students, they're not one-dimensional, right? Students have a lot of different things that they enjoy and that they do, right? And so colleges actually enjoy seeing those different parts. If everything in your profile is related to computer science, then all they know about you is that, oh, you like computer science. So the personal project is a time for you to possibly get out of that kind of niche that you're in, right? That rut that you're in, for lack of a better word, and show colleges, hey, I have another dimension to who I am.
Love it. Awesome. We had a really good question here. I think it's about our programs too. Is the trend to get into the Ivies is to have a high school resume like the person you spoke about, or will you let us know if a person you help in your program has decent shot or gear him or her to some other type of schools? For example, if you have the money to apply, go for it.
Yeah, so this is my thought about like students. Students, they're just like anything else, right? There are students that are, highly achieving, right? And there's students that are still achieving, right? And there's students that are struggling, right? And so there's all different types, right? We've worked with all ranges, right? But again, the biggest thing for our program is finding your student the right fit, right? I've had students go to other programs and then come to us for transfer because it's like, they went to this program, they sent them to this school, they said, oh, it's the most prestigious school you got into, you should go there, right? But that's actually not the right answer. The right answer is which school is the right fit for you. So let's say that your student is, they have, Ivy dreams, right? And they wanted to go to the Ivies. Then we're going to provide you with the path to get there, right? Now, along the way, things might change, right? Interests might change, the type of college might change, this might change, right? The student might start struggling in certain subject areas, whatever the situation is. That's why it's great, because we are with you, like, especially if you start early, we're with you for a longer period of time. We're able to kind of shift and kind of be flexible and then kind of change the route and the path that we're on, right? So whatever path you're on, we are going to be able to find the right schools for you, right? We have students that are, applying to top 100 schools, top 150 schools, and then we also have students that are applying to top 10 schools, right? So it really depends on your student, but we can find the right answer for them.
Awesome. Listen, we have a few more questions. Anyone, by the way, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop it now. We're going to do speed round now through the rest of these. A really good question from Robin is if you are indefinite in the college path, but however, you want to go just for the experience and to get, or what if you are indefinite in the college path, but you want to just go for the experience and get some degree? What are your thoughts about that?
So here are my thoughts. If a student is indefinite, that's because they haven't had enough exposure, right? And so what you should be working on right now is exposure, right? The one big thing that a lot of people misunderstand is like, oh, well, I can apply undecided. But if you're applying undecided in a college asks you, why do you want to study your major? And you're like, oh, well, I want to study undecided because I'm undecided. Doesn't really turn out to be a good essay, right? So even if it's something that you're not 100% sure about, you still need to have something to write about. So you need to have a certain direction that you're headed in, Okay. But college is about exploration. 80% of students change their major once they go to college, whether it's a huge change from like English to computer science, right? Or a small change like from, bio to biochemistry, right? So don't be afraid that you're not choosing the right major right now, because the ability to switch to a certain extent, especially at the private schools and Ivy League schools, is there for you.
Awesome. I see here another parent, this is Esther, said, I have read that the extracurricular activities should be cohesive. If one of my students' personal passion is social inequity, do you recommend writing about a time when one overcame adversity or stereotype or bias?
So yes, if that is something that's important to your student, yeah, I think we should write about it. The question is why, right? So just being racially discriminated against doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have a huge impact on you. But if it did have a huge impact on you, the question becomes why, right? I mean, I grew up in a time in California, especially where I live, where I was one of very few Asian American students, right? I think there was a total of 10 or 11 at my high school. So racial discrimination was pretty rampant, right? But for me, it was kind of like, and in one ear, out the other. So I was just kind of like, okay, sure, great, moved on. Right now, in my subconscious, I don't know how it affected me, right? But at least outward and kind of how I felt about it, it was kind of just like, I guess that's just how they are, and I just let it go, right? But if your student has had an experience that has changed who they are, changed their perspective, then yes, it is something that you should write about.
No, I definitely love that. I think the thing that, and the why again, right? You hear us say the why, and any seniors gonna be working with us or are in our program, you are working with us. You're gonna hear that word a lot. You might as well get like written on your board and say the word why. Like for example, I'm gonna throw another example in there because I think this will apply to a lot of our students. Again, if you're aiming for Ivy bound schools, if you're kind of in this training, your kid is again one of the exceptional ones. Anyways, is what I would assume. And then for them, for a lot of them, failure is very hard, right? Failure for them, by the way, is getting a B. Getting a B for them is very hard. By the way, B is not a bad grade. Don't explain that's a bad grade. But for a lot of them, that is a really bad thing, right? So failure, the idea, like the same analogy that Coach David mentioned of like, it depends why. Because if you talk to me today, Coach Tony today, I have failed so many times in so many things. Even today, me and Coach David were talking, like, I messed up. I was like, my bad. I'm sorry. Like 5 times today, right? So I failed many times today, but for me, it doesn't affect me anymore. Because well, that's cool. I move on, right? Before, again, maybe a student who got like an A minus, a B plus, for them, that's so big for them, right? Again, how big is it? And then think about like levels of stuff. So it comes down to the impact of that thing. Last quick question, Coach David. Is it a bad idea to apply as a person interested in double majoring?
So they don't care, right?
Yeah.
There are a few colleges that ask, like USC is the one that comes to mind, that asks, oh, you can talk about your first choice major and your second choice major. But most colleges will only care about your first choice major, and that's kind of it, right? So if you are planning on double majoring, I think that's great, right? But most colleges, like I'd probably say 99% of colleges will just ask about your first choice major.
Awesome. That is pretty much it. Thank you for everyone who stayed to the end. We still have 150 people here. Kudos for everyone. Again, before we head off, we're going to go ahead and just turn off our videos for a minute, but we dropped the Zoom link in the chat, the calendar link in the chat. If you guys want to book a free 15-minute session, see if we can help you first, right? We're going to help you first. And if you guys like us, talk to our team, have them share our programs with you so you can see what it looks like, and maybe we'll get to work with you guys in the near future as well too. Okay. So again, Coach Dave and I, we're gonna go ahead and mute and unvideo ourselves. But if you guys want to go ahead and just book a free 15-minute chat to see if we can help you guys out first, and then we'll take it from there. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the training. Hope you guys learned a bunch of stuff. We'll chat with you guys soon.